Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're opening the doors to a new segment of what I call Page to Screen Screams. I am so excited to talk about this new series. I'll be comparing horror books to their movies or sometimes TV counterparts. Each review will be served in 3 courses: the appetizer, what worked in the book; the main course, what worked in the film; and the dessert, what ties it all together. And finally, you'll get the key to the right room, deciding whether you will spend the night with the book, the movie, or maybe even both. Also, if you would like to become an innkeeper, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. So tonight I'm introducing you to Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This is my first time reading this book. Yes, I am very late, okay? And my third or fourth time watching the 1989 movie. Now, I have seen the 2019 remake, which I will talk about later. So, what really worked in the novel is that the way Stephen King layers so much detail into his characters, especially Lewis, for example, is painted with a sharper edge than in the movie. He clearly loves his family, but the book doesn't shy away from showing his impatience and short fuse in certain situations. That rawness makes him feel less like a typical horror protagonist and more like a flaw. He's like very human father, the darkness and the sadness that radiate through his perspective, holding a huge weight over his shoulders, dealing with the death of his son Gage, and willing to do anything to get him back, which includes resurrecting his son. But there are always going to be consequences, especially like when you are dealing with the dead. Lewis knew that and was willing to take the risk, and not only with Gage but with his wife Rachel as well. And let me tell you, I do not play with the dead at all. I always believe that once someone dies, yes, they may be resurrected to some other form, but I'm not going to the pet cemetery to bury someone and hopefully someone will come back up the grave. Now, this book also gives us more depth through the side characters who were we spend time with, like Pascal, not just as a ghostly warning, but as a boy whose death carries a real impact. We also meet Judd's wife in the book as well. Her name is Norma, which adds a layer to Judd's character and makes his bond with the Creed family kind of more believable. Now, Lewis sees Judd as a father figure, and I like that bond that they have, and I love the backstory that they give regarding each character. And then there is Lewis and Rachel marriage. Now, this book doesn't shy away. It doesn't present as perfect, but to be honest, it's in its favor. Their disagreements and the way they navigate them reflect the reality of long-term relationships. It makes the family collapse under the weight of death, grief, and like supernatural forces all the more devastating because it begins from a place that feels so authentic. And so I feel like reading this book, I feel like I was the fly on the wall trying to understand the dynamic and the relationship. Now, after finishing the book, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The book was very triggering at times, in my opinion, because King has a way of writing grief and fear in such a painful but realistic way that it lingers with you after you close the pages. That's exactly why I enjoy his work. He doesn't just craft stories, he digs into the parts of life we don't want to face and forces us to sit with them. I also appreciate the add layers of history and the lore in the book that provides. The backstory of Timmy adds another chilling thread to the narrative, show how the horror of resurrection is not just limited to one family, but it also echoes through the past. And then there's the mention of the Native American tribe and the Wendigo. Those methodical roots expand the world of Pet Sematary, giving the burial ground a darker, more ancient. It isn't just a creepy place in the woods, it's a cursed soul tied to something far older and far more terrifying than the creeds could ever understand. Now, what truly worked in the 1989 adaptation was its ability to balance that raw emotion with its creepy dread. And one of the standout moments is the deeply personal conversation and Rachel about death. And this exchange just isn't a plot, it's opened a rare window into the vulnerability and but also a rare conversation. So for Rachel, it forces her to confront the trauma of her sister's illness, something she was buried beneath fear and silence. And when I tell you she talked about her sister Zelda and they showed Zelda character, I was terrified my damn self when I first watched this, okay? And like I said before, I watched this film, I don't know how many times because I really enjoyed it, but that scene still creeped me out to this day when Rachel described her sister Zelda.
She was in the back bedroom like a dirty secret. My sister died in the back bedroom.
Now, in that moment, she lowers her guard and we see a fragile humanity that makes her character kind of like resonate more deeply. The film also gives us heartbreaking glimpse of innocence through Ellie as she tries to process what her father tells her about church and the concept of death. You can feel her confusion and sorrow bleeding through every word. Watching a child wrestling with something so final kind of adds that tragedy that lingers long after the scene ends, and especially when she told her father like, God cannot have church, church is mine. And I kind of really felt that. So it reminds us that grief is not confined to adults, it seeps into the whole family, reshaping them in like a subtle painful way. Now all these conversations layer with hidden darkness and emotional trauma, creating a undercurrent of unease within the Creed household, and that unease amplified by the film's atmosphere. The creepy visuals that shadowing the cinematography, the slow deliberate pacing, the movie never rushes, it wraps around you like a fog, pulling you into the Creed's family nightmare before you even realize it. Now, the book delivers an emotional gut punch. King digs deep into the grief denial, like I said before, and the impossible choices that come with the loss. It feels so real, like the conversation about death, the flaws in Lois and Rachel's marriage, and the heavy shadow of despair give the novel a weight that lingers long after reading. Now, the 1989 movie, on the other hand, excels the atmosphere, so we actually can be able to see it visually now. Just captures that small town creepiness, the shadows stretching over the Creed's family, the slow burn that seeps into every scene, the performance bringing the grief and fear to life. Watching that on screen hits kind of a different way. It makes the tragedy visible and faces voices rather than just in words. Together, the book and film complement each other. I really enjoyed the book, but I also enjoyed the movie as well. And it definitely leaves you haunted by what grief can do to a family, while the film surrounds you with imagery that feels just as inescapable. There is a scene where Pascal tries to help Lewis, giving him a warning about Pet Sematary. Now, at first, Lewis brushed it off, thinking it's just a dream. But here's the thing, I believe Pascal isn't just a ghost. I think he's actually representing Lewis himself. The part of him that knows something is deeply wrong, but in a way, Pascal feels like Lewis subconsciously is trying to warn him before it's too late. So I rewatched the 2019 film when I watched it for the first time. I didn't like it, but after rewatching the movie again, I still don't like it. So for me, the 2019 version felt rushed in my opinion. The pacing didn't give the story enough time to breathe. And changing the death from Gage to Ellie threw the whole tone off for me. It wasn't a bad idea, but it felt like the movie didn't explore that emotional weight of that switch the way it could have. I really enjoyed both. Like I said, the book and the 1989 movie. Each gives a great perspective on the story. Honestly, no complaints here. I love when a movie does the book justice without switching things up too much or ruining the characters. Let me know in the comments if you're enjoying this new series. Next up, I will be covering another book versus movie. Well, actually, book versus miniseries. I'll drop a little clue and I want you to see if you can guess what it is. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, and until then, see you later.